Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I want to show you how and why I use the Presonus Studio One FET comp in my mixes. We're looking at the Presonus Studio One FET comp today. It's one of the analog or state space modeled compressors, I believe is what they call it, inside the FET channel. But before we dive into that, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. It is a completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and explore the Presonus FET comp. We're going to look at a variety of instruments today, probably bass, guitar, keys, vocals, and we'll talk about a couple extreme ways we can use it too. I do use it on drums, not inside the mix usually on the way in. So I use it I have the Presonus 32 channel here board. I use it on the Studio Live when I'm tracking drums, usually on snare, sometimes on room mics as well. First thing we're going to look at here is how I use it on bass guitar. So let me solo up the bass guitar here. You can hear what we're dealing with. Here's our finished bass mix for this song. So first of all, why do I like using this FET comp? I like it because it's an 1176 style compressor. So I like the idea of using an 1176 style compressor. It gives me that 1176 style vibe, but it's also a little bit nicer than an 1176, right? It has a nice key filter on it. We can side chain into it. So a couple things that you don't have with some of the other 1176 plugins on the market. And it fits really well inside of the FET channel here, so we can put things before and after it as well. So those are some of the perks of using it inside of Studio One here, inside the FET channel. But it does give me that 1176 sound, especially when I push really hard into it. But I also like the simplicity of it, right? Setting my attack and release where I want them, and this is usually where I set it. It's those kind of stock 1176 compressor settings that you see on a lot of vocals, a lot of bass. So we're sitting at 0.53 milliseconds on the attack and 50 milliseconds on the release. So we're on the slower side of the attack for this unit, but still very, very fast attack. And then a pretty fast release here at 50 milliseconds as well. So I like being able to set my attack and release right where I want them. I usually leave this on 4:1, and then I just set my input and output to get the amount of compression that I want. On bass here, I'm usually sitting between about 3 and 7 dB reduction, depending on how aggressive the bass is or how all over the place it is here. So take a listen here, and I'm going to A/B this compressor, and you'll hear what it's doing to our bass, volume-wise as well as frequency-wise. So we'll start with it, and then I will take it out. We get a little bit of volume boost because it's controlling the level of our bass. You can see we jump up to about 7 dB reduction here on this bigger note here, but most of the way through we're sitting about 1 to 3 dB reduction on these smaller notes. When we do have those bigger notes, compressor jumps up to take care of that and keep our bass really even. But the other thing I love about this compressor, when you push into it, especially something like bass guitar where low end's going to push harder into the unit on the front end, it gives you some extra aggression. It helps the bass feel meaner, and it really brings out the distortion channel here we have on the bass. So you can hear there's just a distortion channel running underneath here. And that's just mixed in with our DI and our amp to help our bass cut through the mix a little better. But throwing in the 1176 style compressor and pushing our low end into it. So we're not boosting low end beforehand. We're pushing our bass into it, pushing top end into it, and then we boost our low end afterwards. So we keep our low end clean by boosting after the compressor. But by pushing our nice top end into it and the low end that we're getting off of our bass guitar, we're getting some extra aggression from it because it's working so hard to keep our bass even, and we're pushing that distortion, that top end into it. We get some of that extra aggression. It helps our bass feel big and mean. So listen one more time here on our bass guitar without, and then I'll kick it in. Emphasizes the attack and brings up some of the low mid area as well. That's something I notice using this compressor a lot, is that it does emphasize the low mid area sometimes. It can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. Here on bass guitar, I do like what it does there. It helps the bass feel bigger, especially on smaller speakers, right? You're gonna hear that low mid area better, which helps the bass feel bigger. Now the other instrument I use it on pretty much 90% of the time is piano. So you can see we have a piano going through the mix here. It is a more rhythmic instrument here, as well as a tonal instrument, but it's kind of working like a guitar as it plays through the mix here. So take a listen to our piano, and you can see what we're doing with the compressor. Only doing about 3 dB of reduction at the max there. Oof, can't say 3 dB. Same kind of attack and release settings. So like I said, I like to pull it in at these attack and release settings, and it usually does the job depending on how much reduction I need. When I need like 3 dB reduction like this on something, I like to be able to just throw this 1176 in and then push our input up, pull our output down, and then move on. It's a very fast and very versatile compressor inside of Studio One here. Take a listen with and without here on the piano, and you'll hear what it does tonally as well as volume-wise to our piano instrument. So you can hear it's bringing up that low mid area like we talked about before on bass guitar, helps the piano feel a little bit more full, but it also adds some extra energy. To me, it makes it feel like whoever's playing the instrument is hitting the piano a little bit harder. So it brings up some extra energy and some extra oomph to our piano here. Listen one more time. We get a volume boost, of course, but it makes it feel like they're hitting the piano harder, which helps our piano cut through and feel bigger inside the mix. It gives it some extra presence. That's piano there. So we've done bass guitar, we've done piano. Let's jump over and look at vocals. I absolutely love this compressor on vocals, especially lead vocals, sometimes backgrounds, not so much on backgrounds. I'll reach for the tube compressor, the LA2A style compressor here inside of Studio One. But you can see same kind of settings we're using here on vocal. The only thing that usually changes for me with this compressor when I'm casually using it inside the mix here, so on a variety of different instruments, is the input and output. So how much reduction we're doing with the unit. I'm going to solo up the vocal here, take off our effects, take a listen with and without the compressor. You'll see how much reduction we're doing, a bit more reduction here, about 7 to 10 dB reduction usually on vocals for me. But I want you to listen to what it does to our vocal here. I'm going to back up a little bit. we'll start from here. So with and then without.
Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get.
Doing a couple things here by pushing this hard into the unit. It gives us some of that analog vibe, which helps control some of the top end. It's a dynamic microphone, and the vocalist here can get a little bit harsh in that kind of 3 to 4K area. They have a bigger, powerful voice. We'll get some of that harshness there in the 4K range. By pushing this hard into the compressor, it helps to kind of control and smooth out that range, as well as we get that low-mid boost from this compressor, which helps our vocal feel more full range. So we get some extra oomph in that low-mid area. It helps to control our top end, but it also imparts that analog vibe that, for me, exemplifies the character of the vocalist. Listen one more time. I'm going to let it go by without, and then I'm going to kick it in. Listen to that extra vibe and character boost we get out of our vocal.
Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in time. Don't get out of line, oh boy, stay in.
Definitely makes our vocal that much more exciting. Takes it from feeling kind of dull and kind of flat, really wakes it up a little bit. Makes it feel like the vocalist is going for it, right? They're enjoying what they're doing, they're pushing hard. They're really going for it with this song. That's something that I like about this compressor. It helps make things feel a little bit more in your face, a little bit more exciting. Last thing we're going to talk about here is an extra way to use it. So that's kind of how I use it casually through the mix on bass guitar, keys, vocals. You can see the attack and release kind of stay the same. But every now and then, I like to throw it on something like the room mic here and really push into it, really go aggressive with it. So here's our room mic, and we'll pull it up here and go pretty aggressive with it. So we are absolutely crushing this room mic here. You can see we're going slowest attack, fastest release to let that transient cut through a little bit, and then we're pushing our input almost all the way up here, pulling our output back to even out the input and output on the gain side. And we're getting so much more attack and so much more energy coming from this room mic. And sometimes it can make your room mic even feel bigger. So take a listen without, and then we'll kick it in here. You can hear that extra attack that we're adding in to our kick drum by crushing the room mic. So we're getting some low end out of the room mic here, and by really pushing it into the compressor, going slowest attack, fastest release here to emphasize the attack element or the transient element, we get some extra low end attack that we can add into our kick drum. So those are a few ways we can use this plugin here. I don't often use the sidechain here or the key filter, but on something like this, if you were putting it on your drum bus, or if you wanted to sidechain a low-end element into it, you could move your key filter up so it's just listening to maybe the top end and it's not working so hard on your kick drum. You're not squashing your kick drum, because you can hear we lose some low end when we push that hard into a compressor. But I do like that it has these extra features, although I don't use them all that often with this unit. I do use it on pretty much at least 50% of my track. It's always on my lead vocals, it's always on bass guitar, and it's always on piano for me. But sometimes I use it on guitars, and sometimes, like I said, I do throw it on room mics and on background vocals as well. I hope that was helpful for you, and I hope it was interesting to see how I use this 1176 or FET comp inside of Studio One here. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.